Welcome back, my weirdlings. We have stepped into quarter 2 of Raven's Lorecast, the season of thresholds. If quarter 1 was about origins, about where we come from, quarter 2 is about crossing. Crossing out of what no longer fits, crossing toward what is becoming, crossing the quiet line between survival and alignment. You don't have to be perfect to cross. You only have to be willing. So wherever you're listening from, I'm glad you're here. Because this quarter, we are not chasing perfection. We are practicing becoming. All right, weird ones. Wit, wisdom, witchcraft. Let's begin. Take a breath with me, weird ones. In and out. If you've got a candle nearby, light it. If you don't, no stress. Magic has never cared about props. It cares about presence. Welcome back to Raven's Lorecast, where we study the sacred like it's a college lecture and practice it like it's survival. Tonight, the sky does something rare, something that makes your nervous system tilt its head like, wait, did the universe just glitch? Because this is episode 27, Celestial Quintessence, the night the sky doubled back. And baby cakes, it did. Tonight, we're standing under a full blue moon, the second full moon in the same calendar month. Not metaphorically, not, it feels like a lot. Literally. The sky said, oh, you thought you were done? You thought you processed it? You thought you understood? Here, have another full moon. And not just any full moon, a micromoon, which means she's full, she's bright, she's whole, but she's farther away from us than usual. So the light is still flooding everything, but it's coming from a distance. And that right there is the whole spiritual thesis of tonight. Because some truths hit you like lightning, and some truths arrive like moonlight through a window you forgot was open. This is a night for the ones who are still becoming, the ones who are healing in layers, the ones who keep realizing that closure is mostly a myth invented by people who don't want to feel things. Tonight is a night for the ones who are brave enough to admit, I'm not done. I'm not finished. I'm not healed in a straight line. I'm still in the spiral. And if that's you, good. You're in the right place. Because in this circle, we don't worship perfection. We worship pattern. We don't demand certainty. We practice relationship. And we don't pretend the sky is just pretty wallpaper. We treat it like what our ancestors always knew it was: a mirror, a map, a teacher, a living text written in light. So here's what I want you to do before we go any deeper. Put one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly and whisper out loud if you can. What am I still carrying? Not what you should be over, not what you've already dealt with, not what you're tired of revisiting. What are you still carrying? And then, this is the important part, don't answer with your mind. Answer with your body, because your body does not lie. It does not perform. It does not fake spiritual progress for applause. Your body will tell you the truth in sensation, tightness, heat, weight, restlessness, grief, anger, longing, relief. That's your compass. That's your magic. And tonight, under this doubled back moon, we're going to gather the pieces of ourselves that got scattered. We're going to talk about why the phrase blue moon exists at all, why extra moons have always been treated like omens and open doors, and why this micromoon, full but distant, is one of the most poetic cosmic metaphors I've ever seen, because it's telling you you can be whole and still feel far away. You can be complete and still be reaching. You can be shining and still be healing. So settle in, my weird ones. This is a night for remembering what you already know. This is a night for integration. This is a night for the fifth essence. This is a night for celestial quintessence. Every culture that's ever watched the sky knows this truth. When the rhythm of the heavens stumbles, humans pay attention. Not because we're superstitious, not because we're primitive, but because the sky has always been our first calendar, our first religion, our first mirror. And when the universe does something extra, something it doesn't do on a normal schedule, we notice. Tonight is one of those nights, because we are under a blue moon, and I need you to understand something right up front. The phrase blue moon is not ancient. Even though it sounds like it should be carved into stone, it's modern folklore. The second full moon in a calendar month definition. That version spread after a 1946 misinterpretation of an older system, and it stuck. Which is honestly hilarious because it means that part of our mystical language came from a cosmic typo. And that, weird ones, is extremely on brand for humanity. But even though the phrase is modern, the noticing is prehistoric. The human eye has never ignored a bonus moon. Across the world, extra light was always a reason to gather. Not because everyone interpreted it the same way, but because everyone felt the same thing. This is not ordinary. This is a threshold. This is a door. In Hindu tradition, every full moon, Purnima, is holy, and an extra full moon becomes a moment for cleansing and renewal. Across many tribes of indigenous peoples of North America, unexpected moons have been treated as moments when the veil thins, a time to honor ancestors, seek guidance, listen harder. Chinese families have long used late season full moons as reunion feasts and offering nights, wholeness made visible. Polynesian navigators tracked rare sky patterns as omens of voyage and change, believing that when the sky doubled back on itself, the ocean might too. Different rituals, same instinct. When the universe gives extra light, you use it. Now, quick science note before the astrology girlies start acting feral. A blue moon does not mean the moon turns blue. Sometimes atmospheric dust or smoke can make the moon look tinted, but blue moon is about timing, not color. It's about frequency. It's about the calendar getting an extra heartbeat, which is why it hits us so weird. Because the human psyche loves patterns. It loves predictability. It loves first this, then that. And the blue moon shows up and says, actually, no, we're looping back. And tonight has another twist. This full moon is also a micromoon, meaning it occurs near apogee, when the moon is farthest from Earth. So yes, she's full. Yes, she's bright. But she's slightly smaller, slightly dimmer, slightly more distant. And spiritually, that is devastatingly poetic. Because haven't you lived that? Haven't you had seasons where you were doing fine, functioning, working, showing up, being the capable badass everyone depends on, but emotionally, you were far. You were full, but distant. You were whole, but not reachable. You were shining, but from a place that felt like it had glass between you and the world. That's micromoon energy. Completion without intimacy. Wholeness without closeness. Light without warmth. And if you've been feeling like that lately, the sky isn't judging you, it's naming you. Now let's talk about the title of this episode, Celestial Quintessence. In ancient philosophy and alchemy, quintessence meant the fifth essence, the thing beyond earth, air, fire, and water, the element that binds the others together, the invisible ingredient that makes a life feel coherent, not perfect, not painless, just integrated. And that is what this night is offering. Not another lesson, not another to-do list, not another manifestation hack. This moon is asking for something older: integration, gathering, making peace with the parts of you that didn't get resolved the first time. Because a blue moon isn't just extra. It's a cosmic reminder that healing is not linear. Truth is not one and done. And closure is not always the point. Sometimes the point is return. Sometimes the point is the spiral. Sometimes the point is the universe giving you another full moon and whispering, try again, but softer. That phrase, the sky doubled back, is how it feels when the heavens repeat themselves, when the calendar loops, when you get an echo of something you thought was over. And here's the raven's truth. Sometimes the sky doubles back because you missed the message. But sometimes it doubles back because you weren't ready yet. And there is no shame in that. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are not failing your spiritual growth homework. You are a human being, and humans learn in layers. So what do we do with a night like this? We don't use it to force answers. We use it to ask better questions. We use it to sit with what's unfinished, not as a punishment, but as proof that we're alive. Because the sky didn't double back to torment you. It doubled back to offer you something rare. Another chance to integrate. Another chance to release. Another chance to become. And my weird ones, that is quintessence. My bright ones, tonight the sky does something rare. Not loud, not flashy, not apocalyptic. Rare in the way that makes your spirit go quiet and say, wait, what was that? Because tonight the sky doubles back. Not in the sense that time reverses, but in the sense that the calendar slips just slightly, and reality gives us a second full moon inside the same month, a second echo, a second peak, a second round of illumination. And if you've been living through the kind of season where you keep thinking, I already processed this, I already healed this, I already learned this lesson, then tonight's moon is going to feel personal. This is celestial quintessence, the essence behind the elements, the invisible fifth thing that binds the visible four. And the sky is giving it to us through a very specific combination: a full blue moon, a micromoon, and a zodiac axis that says meaning, perspective, story, and the truth behind the story. Let's step into it. Tonight, May 31st, 2026, we get a full moon. And not just any full moon. This is the second full moon in the calendar month of May. The first one was May 1st. And now the moon has returned again before the month releases its grip. That's what makes it a blue moon by the modern definition. And yes, I'm going to say it plainly. This is why humans invented the phrase, once in a blue moon. Because it doesn't happen often. It's not a monthly thing. It's not a seasonal thing. It's not a put it on your planner thing. It's a the sky got weird in the most subtle way possible thing. Blue moon is a reminder that time is not as tidy as we pretend. The calendar is a human invention. The moon is not obligated to obey it. And tonight, the moon is doing what the moon has always done, showing us that our systems, our schedules, our neat little boxes are approximations, not laws, which means tonight is not about more, it's about again the light, again the truth, again the reckoning, again the invitation to see what you missed the first time. Because sometimes the universe repeats itself not to punish you, but to offer you a second chance to meet the same moment with a different version of yourself. That's why this is the night the sky doubled back. Now here's the part I love. This blue moon is also a micromoon, meaning it happens when the full moon is near the moon's apogee, its farthest point from Earth. So it appears slightly smaller and slightly dimmer than an average full moon. And I need you to understand how poetically savage that is. Because most full moons feel like they're pressing their face against your window, demanding you acknowledge your entire emotional history. But a micromoon is a full moon that says, I'm going to illuminate you from a distance. Not cold, not absent, just less invasive. Which means this isn't a full moon that screams. It's a full moon that watches. It's a full moon that asks, what have you learned since the last time I lit you up? Because it's not just bright, it's bright twice. And the second time is always the deeper one. The second time is where the excuses run out. The second time is where you can't say, I didn't know, because now you do. Tonight's micromoon is quintessence energy in its purest form. A truth that doesn't chase you. It waits for you to be ready. Now let's talk zodiac. Tonight's full moon occurs in Sagittarius. And Sagittarius is not subtle. Sagittarius is the part of the psyche that demands, what does this mean? Not what happened, not who said what, not what's the schedule, not what's the strategy. Sagittarius wants the why. Sagittarius wants the philosophy, the pattern, the arc. Sagittarius wants the truth that makes your life make sense again. Sagittarius is the part of you that remembers that you are not here to be perfect. You are here to become wise. And Sagittarius is also the part of you that cannot tolerate a lie you tell yourself just to keep the peace. So tonight, this full moon doesn't just illuminate feelings, it illuminates belief systems, the stories you've lived inside, the rules you inherited, the shoulds you swallowed, the identities you wore because they were safer than your truth. Sagittarius is the fire that burns through false meaning, not to destroy you, to free you. And because it's a blue moon, Sagittarius isn't asking once, it's asking twice. What is true? And then again, what is still true now that you've changed? And across from that Sagittarius moon sits the sun in Gemini. This is the axis of the episode title itself, The Night the Sky Doubled Back, because Gemini is the sign of the double, the twin, the mirror, the two truths at once. Gemini reminds us that life is rarely one clean answer. Sometimes it's yes and, both and. It depends. Tell me more. I don't know yet. And tonight, Gemini is not the villain. Gemini is the teacher. Because Gemini says you can hold more than one truth without breaking. You can be a person who is healing and still have wounds. You can be a person who is powerful and still be tired. You can be a person who is wise and still be learning. Gemini gives you permission to be complex. Sagittarius gives you permission to be honest. Together, they create the exact kind of pressure that makes someone become real. Not performative, not polished, real. Now, Mercury has entered Gemini as well. Mercury in Gemini is the mind on caffeine. It's quick, it's sharp, it's curious, it's restless. This is the placement that makes you connect dots in the shower, remember something you forgot you knew, talk to yourself in the car like you're delivering a TED Talk. Suddenly realize your entire childhood was one long metaphor. Mercury in Gemini is the inner narrator who refuses to shut up. But here's the spell work. Mercury in Gemini can either be insight or it can be noise. So tonight, the question isn't, what am I thinking? The question is, what thought keeps repeating because it's trying to become wisdom? Because this is a blue moon. The sky is repeating itself. So your mind will too. Pay attention to what loops, not to punish yourself, to decode yourself. Venus is also in Gemini, and Venus in Gemini is not the heavy romance of devotion. It's the flirtation of discovery. It's pleasure that comes from conversation, wit, shared glances, laughter in the dark, feeling mentally seen. Venus in Gemini is the reminder that love is not just commitment. Love is attention. Love is being interested. Love is asking, who are you now? And that matters tonight because a blue moon is, again, Venus in Gemini is the invitation to fall in love with your life again. Not by forcing happiness, but by becoming curious about the version of you that survived everything so far. Even if you don't feel romantic, even if you're grieving, even if you're numb, Venus in Gemini says, start with curiosity. Curiosity is a form of hope. Mars is in Aries. Mars in Aries is clean, direct fire. It's not complicated. It doesn't negotiate with fear. Mars in Aries says, do it. Not later, not when you feel ready, not when you feel worthy, now. And tonight, Mars in Aries is the cosmic counterweight to all the Gemini thinking, because Gemini can analyze itself into paralysis. Mars in Aries says, enough, choose. So if this full moon brings you clarity, Mars in Aries is the part of the sky that asks, What are you going to do with it? Not everything, not a total life overhaul. One thing, one brave thing, one honest thing. That's how becoming happens. Jupiter is still in Cancer until June 30th. Jupiter is the planet of growth. Cancer is the sign of home, protection, memory, lineage, and care. So Jupiter in Cancer is not about expansion through conquest. It's about expansion through nourishment. It's growth that happens when you finally stop starving yourself emotionally. It's the kind of growth that comes from rest, softness, safety, community, chosen family, boundaries that protect the tender parts of you. And under a blue moon, Jupiter in Cancer hits different because Cancer remembers. Cancer keeps the stories. Cancer is the psychic scrapbook of your life. So tonight's sky doubled back energy isn't just cosmic, it's personal. It's your past tapping you on the shoulder and saying, "Are you ready to stop running from me?" Not to drown in it, to reclaim it. Because memory, when held correctly, becomes power. Saturn is in Aries, and Saturn in Aries is the moment where fire gets structure. It's the difference between a spark and a hearth. Saturn in Aries says, if you want to become someone new, you need a container. Not a cage, a container. A practice, a rhythm, a boundary, a standard. Saturn in Aries is the grown-up voice that says, you can be wild and still be consistent. You can be magical and still be responsible. You can be free and still keep your promises to yourself, to others. Tonight's blue moon isn't just inspiration. It's accountability, not shame, accountability. Uranus has entered Gemini. This is the electricity of the mind. Sudden insights, sudden shifts, sudden disruption of old narratives. Uranus in Gemini is the cosmic upgrade that says, your old story is not the only story. And that matters tonight because Gemini is already doubled. Now it's doubled with lightning. So if you get a thought tonight that feels like it came from nowhere, if you suddenly see something clearly, if you suddenly realize you've been living inside someone else's script, that's Uranus in Gemini. Don't panic. Write it down. Let it land. Neptune is in Aries. Neptune is the planet of dreams, mysticism, and disillusion. Aries is direct action. So Neptune in Aries is dream fire. Vision that doesn't just float. Vision that moves. This is the sky saying, stop fantasizing about who you could be. Start becoming them. And tonight, under a full blue moon, that's dangerous in the best way. Because it's easy to romanticize becoming. Neptune in Aries says, no, this is real, this is embodied, this is now. Pluto is in Aquarius. Pluto doesn't do surface changes. Pluto changes the foundations. Aquarius rules society, systems, the collective, the future. So Pluto in Aquarius is the slow transformation of the world itself. And you are not separate from that. Your personal becoming is part of the collective becoming. Your healing is not just self-care. It's resistance. It's liberation. It's a refusal to let the world make you smaller. So tonight, if you feel like you're standing at the edge of something bigger than your personal life, you are. And you're not crazy. You're awake. Let's bring it back to the practical sky. Tonight, The full blue micromoon rises in the east around sunset, bright, full, but subtly smaller and more distant than usual. Venus shines in the west after sunset, bright and unmistakable. Mercury is visible low in the east before sunrise. You'll need a clear horizon. And Jupiter remains a dominant bright object in the evening sky. And yes, Uranus and Neptune require a telescope. So don't stress about seeing everything. The magic isn't in seeing every planet. The magic is in knowing the sky is speaking and you are learning how to listen. So, what is the quintessence tonight? What is the essence behind the elements? It's this: the truth comes back around. Not because you failed the first time, because you've changed. The moon doubled back, and you're being asked, what are you ready to see now that you couldn't see then? What are you ready to release now that you weren't ready to release before? What are you ready to become now that you finally believe you're allowed? This is not a punishment moon. This is a second chance moon, a one more time with feeling moon. A moon that says, you're not behind, you're in a spiral, and spirals return to the same place, but higher. So if your life feels like it's repeating, maybe it is. But maybe you're not repeating as the same person. Maybe you're returning as someone stronger, someone clearer, someone who finally knows what matters. That's the night the sky doubled back. And weird ones, my sweet, sweet bright ones, if the moon can come around again, so can you. Weird ones, welcome to the part of the ritual where the sky stops being an idea and becomes something you can hold. Because tonight is a blue moon, a second full moon in the same month, a cosmic echo, a loop in the pattern. And this is the kind of night where you don't need a spell that screams. You need something that integrates, something that takes what's scattered and makes it coherent again. So tonight, we're making celestial quintessence stew, not because it's trendy, not because it's aesthetic, but because it does what the blue micromoon does. It brings the ingredients back around. It deepens the flavor. It turns separate into whole. This is food for a once in a blue moon night, equal parts ritual and rebellion. And it is absolutely a trust the process stew because it is unconventional. Fennel and blueberries, beans and coconut milk, smoked paprika and citrus? Oh, yes. And if your brain is already trying to call the culinary police, tell it Raven said, relax. This is alchemy. Because magic doesn't always taste like the recipe you expected. Sometimes it tastes like the version of you that finally stopped trying to be normal. Let's talk about quintessence for a second. In old philosophy and old magic, we talk about the four classical elements: earth as body, nourishment, stability; water as emotion, softness, healing; air as clarity, breath, perspective; and fire as courage, transformation, and will. But then there's a fifth thing, the thing behind the elements, the binder, the integration, the invisible thread that turns a pile of ingredients into a meal and a pile of experiences into wisdom. That's quintessence. So this stew isn't planet soup. This is the fifth essence in a bowl. This is what was scattered, I now gather. And yes, we're keeping the blue moon herself in the pot because we're adding blueberries. And I know, you're either delighted or suspicious. Good. That means you're paying attention. Now you'll need 1 tablespoon olive oil, 2 shallots sliced thin, 2 cloves garlic minced, 1 cup chopped fennel bulb, 2 carrots diced, 1 red bell pepper chopped, 1 cup sliced shiitake mushrooms, 1 cup cooked black beans, 3 cups vegetable broth, 1 bay leaf, a half a teaspoon of thyme, a half a teaspoon of rosemary, a pinch of smoked paprika, a handful of fresh blueberries. These are for the blue moon herself. 1 cup of coconut milk, sea salt, lemon zest, and lime juice to finish. Now, here are some optional upgrades if you've got them and want to add them. An extra squeeze of lemon for brightness, a pinch of chili flakes if you want the stew to bite back, and I like to put in some chopped fresh parsley or green onion on top for summer is coming energy. Let's assign the magic correctly. This is the part where I remind you a witch doesn't cook, a witch composes. So here's what each ingredient carries. Earth, the grounding and nourishment ingredients, are black beans for structure, steadiness, and endurance. Mushrooms are deep earth wisdom, shadow integration. Carrots, sweetness that comes from patience. This is the part of you that survives. Then we have water, the healing and softness. This is represented by the coconut milk, emotional gentleness, soothing, binding. This is the part of you that deserves kindness. Then we have air, clarity and perspective. Here are the fennel and lemon zest and lime. Fennel is bright clarity, clean breath, I can see again energy. Lemon zest and lime, mental sharpness, fresh perception. This is the part of you that tells the truth. And finally, fire. Courage and will is represented in the red bell pepper for vitality and forward motion, and smoked paprika, heat tempered into wisdom. This is the part of you that begins again. Now, the quintessence, I would say the integration, is the blueberries, the blue moon signature, the second illumination. They're the strange little miracle that makes you pause and go, oh, this is new. This is different. This works. And that's the point. Number 1, warm the oil. Call in the threshold. Start with the olive oil, not a lot, just enough to coat the bottom of the pot. And as it warms, take a breath and say, this is my altar. This is my becoming. Because tonight's episode isn't about performance. It's about coherence. Number 2, saute the foundation, the shallots and the garlic. First add the shallots, let them go translucent. Then add garlic. And when the scent hits the air, that first sharp, holy kitchen witch punch, pause. Because garlic is one of the oldest forms of protective magic humans have ever used. Garlic is the ingredient that says, not everything gets to touch me. Stir clockwise and whisper, I release what drains me. I keep what strengthens me. Number 3, add the bright builders, the fennel, carrots, and red pepper. Add them slowly, one at a time. And yes, this is where the stew starts smelling like a decision. Like, I'm not staying in the same place anymore. Let them soften while you stir slowly, not rushed, not frantic, because this isn't hustle magic. This is ritual magic. And while you stir, say clarity, sweetness, courage, return to me. Number 4, bring in the deep earth. Add your shiitakes and black beans. And now the scent shifts. Now it becomes darker, richer, more grounded. This is the moment where the stew starts to feel like it has a spine. And that matters tonight because blue moon nights can make you feel floaty, like your mind is running in circles. This part anchors you. Stir and say, I do not fear my depth. I do not abandon myself. Number 5, the simmer that changes everything is what comes next. Pour in the broth. Add the bay leaf, the thyme, rosemary, and smoked paprika. Bring it to a gentle simmer, not a violent boil, a simmer. Because simmering is the point. Simmering is what turns separate things into one thing. And while it bubbles, breathe with it. Inhale and exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your jaw unclench. Let the pot teach you something. Transformation does not need drama. It needs time. While it simmers, whisper this, or in your own words, into the steam. What was scattered, I now gather. What was distant, I now draw near. What returned for a second time, I meet with new eyes. Because that's what a blue moon is. A second meeting, a second chance, a second illumination. Let it simmer about 20 minutes. And while it does, you can do something very Raven approved. Stand there. Smell it. Let your nervous system believe in safety again. Now drop in the blueberries and watch the stew shift. Not just visually, though yes, you'll get that subtle wash of indigo, lavender, amethyst, but energetically. This is the moment where the stew becomes itself. This is the moment where the weird ingredient becomes the signature. And that's a spiritual lesson if I've ever seen one. Because the part of you were taught to hide, the part that makes you different, the part that makes you strange, that might be the exact thing that makes you whole. Stir gently and say, I honor the uncommon in me. I honor the truth I tried to soften. I honor the magic that refuses to be normal. Now add the coconut milk last. Stir slowly until the surface gleams. This is the softening, the unifying, the binding, the part that makes it feel like comfort without making it feel like surrender. Taste it. Adjust it. Salt to anchor, lemon zest to wake it up, lime juice to lift it. And if your brain goes, this is unexpected, good. That means it's working. Because tonight is about becoming, not repeating. Ladle the stew into your favorite bowl. Pause. Candlelight on one side, moonlight on the other, and whisper, what was scattered, I now gather. What was distant, I now draw near. May this food align body and will, earth and ether, as above, so below, and may it be delicious. Then eat, slowly, like someone who is allowed to exist. It should taste a little wild, smoky, earthy, bright, faintly sweet. The fennel cuts through the heaviness. The blueberries add depth like a secret. The coconut milk makes it all coherent. And if you don't know how it works, but it works, congratulations. You just learned the entire thesis of witchcraft. And my weird ones, this stew is even better the next day because it deepens, it integrates, it becomes more itself. So if you have leftovers, use them as ritual fuel. Eat a bowl before journaling under the blue moon hangover. Eat it before therapy. Eat it before you make a hard phone call. Eat it before you tell the truth you've been swallowing. And each time you do, whisper, I return to myself. Because this is quintessence. This is the fifth essence. This is the part of you that keeps coming back around until the lesson becomes wisdom. Trust the process. Magic rarely tastes like the recipe you imagined. Come closer. This is the part where we don't analyze the sky anymore. We let it do what it came to do. Because tonight is a blue moon. And I know people love to treat that phrase like it's just a cute expression. Once in a blue moon. Like it's a novelty. But you and I both know that's not what it is. A blue moon is the universe saying, here, look again. Not because you missed it, not because you failed, but because you're ready to see it differently now. And that's what makes this night sacred. Not the rarity, not the astronomy, the permission. The permission to return to a moment, a memory, a version of yourself, and finally understand what it was trying to teach you. It brings second truth, the truth behind the truth, the deeper layer, the thing you couldn't hear the first time because you were still in survival mode, still in grief mode, still in I'll deal with this later mode. And listen, there is no shame in that. Sometimes the first time something happens, all you can do is endure it. But the second time is where you reclaim your power. The second time is where you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And you start asking, what did this make visible? That is quintessence. That is the fifth essence. That is the invisible thread that ties the whole thing together. Not manifestation, not hustle, not become your highest self by Monday. No. Tonight's work is simpler than that. Tonight is about integration. The part of witchcraft that doesn't sparkle for Instagram because it's internal, quiet, honest, unmarketable. The part where you gather up what's been scattered across the year and say, come back, all of you, I'm ready now. And here's the other thing that matters tonight. This is a micromoon, a full moon at its farthest distance. Still full, still luminous, still powerful, just a little further away. And weird ones, that is a lesson some of you desperately need. Because you've been judging your own power based on proximity. You've been thinking, if I'm not overflowing, I'm failing. If I'm not radiant, I'm broken. If I'm not producing, I'm useless. But the micromoon says, distance doesn't mean absence. You can be tired and still be sacred. You can be quiet and still be real. You can be far away from your old life and still be full. So here's what we're going to do. Nothing dramatic, no complicated tools, just you, your breath, and a moment of truth. If you can, place one hand over your heart and one hand over your belly and breathe in and out. Now repeat after me. What was scattered, I now gather. What was distant, I now draw near. What returned for a second time, I meet with new eyes. I do not rush my becoming. I do not shame my pace. I trust the process. And weird ones, if you felt something crack open in that last line, good. That's your spirit unclenching. That's your nervous system remembering it's allowed to live. Now I want you to hold one question in your mind tonight. Just one. Not 10, not a list, not a spreadsheet. One. Here it is. What is ready to make sense now? Not what you want to force into meaning, not what you want to heal so you can stop feeling it. What is ready? Because wisdom has timing, and you can't harvest something that hasn't ripened. But tonight is a harvest moon disguised as a blue moon. Tonight is the sky doubling back so you can finally take what's yours. And I need to say this clearly. If you feel like you're behind in life, behind in healing, behind in joy, behind in your own damn story, you're not. You're in a spiral, and spirals revisit the same point from a higher altitude. You're not repeating, you're ascending. That's why it hurts sometimes. That's why it feels familiar sometimes, because you're seeing the same lesson with a different nervous system, a different set of boundaries, a different strength. So tonight, when you step outside, or when you look out the window, or when you simply imagine that blue moon hanging there like a quiet witness, I want you to remember, the sky doesn't demand perfection from you. It demands presence. It demands honesty. It demands that you stop abandoning yourself for the comfort of being easy. So take a breath and let tonight be enough. Let your stew be enough. Let your body be enough. Let your pace be enough. And if all you do tonight is survive and soften, that counts. That is magic. That is quintessence. That is the fifth essence returning home. Until next time, my weird ones, stay strange, stay tender, stay sovereign, and remember, the night doubled back for a reason. You were ready to see it. If tonight stirred something in you, if a story caught, if a ritual settled into your bones, if a truth followed you into the quiet, that's the work. Quarter 2 is about thresholds, and thresholds aren't destinations, they're decisions. If you'd like to keep walking with me between episodes, you can find Ravens Lorecast on Facebook, Blue Sky, Twitter, Pinterest, and TikTok. You can find me on Instagram at ravens_lore_cast. These are where the conversation continues, the visuals unfold, and the circle stays open. If you're called to go even deeper, the Patreon door is there when you're ready. No pressure, no chasing. Just another threshold you can step through when it feels true. Until next time, wit, wisdom, witchcraft. See you at the doorway, my weirdlings.